The relaxing horror film Salem'S Lo is officially coming to life, produced by Salem'S Lo. A mysterious wooden box arrives at its destination. The famous owner is Hanko. The porter Hank has strict requirements for the identification of the box. Although Hank, the porter, is afraid, he is not afraid of Gauchi. It wasn't until Verdun led the way to the end of the earth that there was light. Hank and his companions bowed down and entered the hell. The classmate unscrewed the light bulb and was surprised to find that the box room was actually filled with soil. Tommen heard a hidden voice tempting him to interrupt his classmate and told him not to explore, so the two quickly fled, shocked by his subordinates. Shunshin was intoxicated, and he planned to rent a house in his permanent residence and came to the housing agency where he met Shumi Sushan. Well, if you know about the Moss Mine house, that should tell you I can pretty much tell anything. It's been sitting vacant for almost 40 years. Who bought it? Who bought? Some European fellow. Wears these fancy suits. He's the wide opening up that shop across the street. How do you know about the Marston house? Chio lived here under the guidance of Sushan, and Ben received a cheap house. At school, Mark was obsessed with magic. He pointed his hands to show his escape treat. When he saw Lafitte, he was extremely surprised. The ghost figure came out and pulled his hair towards him. Sherfike flashed and screamed snowflakes. Sherji's face was full of embarrassment and he stopped Lafitte. When Sushan reported this case, he went to a drive-in movie theater alone at night and received a hint from a beautiful woman. He wanted to buy a ticket, but he accepted the invitation without saying a word. The original Susan faded away from her ideals and future at the Minggu base, but told Susan that her parents and ancestors were living abroad, so she would write other people's stories and come back here to actually write her own story. Lafitte's severely stimulated and temporarily frustrated and unable to provide clues to the police. You couldn't fall asleep. He lay on the bed and picked up the missing Lafitte. He walked out and searched for Lafitte. What was complicated in the mist? Danny came to his mother's room in Pedersley and felt unwell, so he was taken to the hospital. The doctor said that Danny was suffering from anemia, and he had no way of knowing that Hongxing. Danny received the meal and lost his two sons in succession. Danny's psychological priest fell asleep in the middle of the body, traditionally intending to complete the unfinished task. Chang fell down. A loud scream was heard from the coffin, and then Danny's cry for help came out. He thought that Danny could still save the mountain. Danny was a little calm and had no human head protruding from the pit. Waiting for Baiku to come to the bar, Fatda was sitting alone, which was very abnormal. He went up to ask if his body was not. Meg said that he was sick. He looked at Baiku with his lips not drunk. But the situation was so he took him home for the night and found that there were teeth marks on Mike's neck. Baiku's face was solemn. He seemed to have thought of something. He came to the rental house and followed him to the dormitory. However, Hu Segwo can ask the court to determine that the deaths of Mike and Dandy were caused by the same malignancy as the death. When Mark woke up, Philippe stood outside the bed and exchanged his names. Mark approached the window, and Danny Cortos appeared and encouraged Mark to open the window. His eyes were filled with encouragement. Mark was forced out of the wall and to fight with Li Shirduo. When he encountered the Zero Ghost, he bounced Meg 3 miles away. Since the flashlight only has a one-way retreat function, Mike took a fancy to the loophole and attacked quickly from the side to avoid hitting Bake and was knocked down. Seth, who was always shining brightly. A series of strange things happened to the team. Danny's mother died and was sent to a residential house outside the town. After research, Bai found that white roses can prevent all white roses from the West York ghost, so Slack finally pulled Balu's first child away. It turned out that he was aware of Balu's arrival and did not believe in the existence of ghosts for a while. The two anti-brothers took the doctor to the parking lot to check on Danny's mother. The antique shop Bogus came to. Mark's handcart now arrived at the corner of Marsden and entered the corner alone. Slippers fell from his knees and he breathed a sigh of relief. He saw Bug, Dandy's mother, successfully turned on the phone without remembering the search instructions. But Danny's mother was shocked and the doctor was in pain. Du Shenyan acted like a dead horse and injected a rabies vaccine. Lord Marsden Mark was caught and hung upside down, and to death. The Bensai people found the priest and the other priests used the power of the church, which could only produce a huge with the power of faith. Snow Ghost said that the church was difficult to persuade. When Salad arrived at Marsden in the tunnel, Brother Bai turned into a Zhijiugi and attacked everyone, but Bayu knew it, so he could only split up his actions. Shu Xiang returned home and made his mother leave. He found out that his mother and washer. The priest stepped forward and shot forward, chasing the cross. Mark ran away crookedly and was already threatened by the rhinoceros. Mark was forced to the 4 pillars of the cabin and buckled the bag. Sudan twisted his body and his expression changed with pain. The doctor raised his wooden suit and planned to stare at Sushan. Although he escaped from the church, Ben chased him out. When he returned to the small town, Ben escaped back to the church for a small battle. Shen Shuaiben, the coffin in the middle of Li Xiang, opened a back wall and fired Shen Shuai's curly-haired sister. She wanted to know about her mother, who was in body shape. She found that she could only use the car to cover her thoughts and escape. After Balu's death, the company became the only 2 people in the town to kill them, leading to an unknown distance.